Eileen, what was that for?
Oh, you don't know? That's the traditional Norse greeting. 2 strikes to the back of the head.
Oh, really?
No! That's for calling the Valkyries submissive and blockable like a goddamn ape. But don't worry, there's plenty more where that came from.
Oh? Oh! Oh! Hello and welcome! And welcome to another episode of BBSPN, a Blood Bowl podcast. I'm Josh, and with my co-host Eiley, we plan on guiding you through the main event. The main event for today being Norse, of course. But which Norse is best Norse? The latest 2022 team featuring the Valkyries and the pork-powered beer distribution, or its older 2016 counterpart? So, what'd you bring to the table, Eiley, besides, Norse?
I brought a roster that I really shouldn't have played. Now, I don't recommend anybody play. This is probably the worst way to build a team. This is why we don't build our teams at 1 in the morning. I brought 2 Ulfwereners, 2 Berserkers, only 1 Valkyrie, 7 linemen, the Beer Pig, 2 rerolls for 975k. Because apparently I did my math wrong and thought that I hadn't added the Beer Boar already. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll throw that in, 995, we're good to go. Keeping true with a BPSPN team testing fashion, I could have afforded that last positional.
All right, and I brought the stereotypical 2016 team, save for the Yeti, because I feel like it's completely unreliable. But those 2 Ulfwereners, 2 Zerkers, 1 catcher, and 7 linemen with an apothecary, 2 rerolls, equaling out to 1,000 team value even. So what did you expect to do? What were your expectations going into this match, Eiley?
So my expectations were that it was going to be because looking at the rosters, we brought the identical rosters. So it's okay, going into this, the only thing that's going to be different is we're going to see if this Valkyrie is, capable of doing far more than the catcher, and B, see if the pig is actually, worth bringing. Spoiler alert, it's not.
Yeah, and my expectations were going to be that while I see the Norse team as being a lot more well-rounded, more versatile, I don't think it's going to punch any harder or even as hard as the 2016 team. But that's what led us into this match in the first place. It started out as you would expect, just a big brawl in the center, and true to Bash fashion, it kind of came down to who went first. So what was your game plan when you were going to receive the ball, Eiley?
Cause as much pain as possible, because opening blocks, when you're Norse and your opponent makes the opening blocks, that's scary. But it's also true that when you're Norse and you make the opening blocks, you can just completely roll your opponent. So it's so everything here is just way swingier. So let's swing it as hard as we can.
Yeah, it mostly just divulged. In fact, I made a couple of diagrams because, of course I did, of our motions throughout the first half. And as you can see, the blob in the center just starts to accumulate and then just move to different positions on my side of the pitch for quite some time.
The slow rolling ball of mostly naked men beating the shit out of each other.
Yeah. And we were quite literally having a mirror match, because we would have a KO followed by an opposing KO, and then a foul, which turned into first turned into Eiley getting set off, and then I tried to foul, rolled doubles, and then I got sent off trying to argue the call. So we were quite literally fighting mimo-y-mimo. This is the same person mocking each other and copying each other. So it really much led down to once Eiley got to a breakaway, she scored. Of closer to the end of the half, as always. But as we found out, once you get closer to the end of the pitch and try to stall, it's a little harder when you're just doing Norse v Norse because, as I remember correctly, I was able to get a solid hit on your ball carrier, I think 3 times before you were able to score.
You got pushes. You got a lot of pushes. The last
Yeah.
one was a knockdown. The ball didn't scatter out, and her armor didn't break either. So I just kind of dodged out and got it. But yeah, there's not really a whole lot else to say there. It's like I probably stalled too long. We played this game at, I think we got started at like 2 a.m. my time because I kept having Unity engine crashes on tabletop sim. So it took us like 40 minutes to actually get started.
Yeah, I can't wait till the mod team gets a hold of the assets for this team because, as we found out, looking for a Valkyrie model in tabletop sim wasn't the easiest thing. I really thought that there would just be a bunch of Valkyrie-esque models available to put on the pitch, but like we couldn't even find like a decent board model. We just ended up using the pig from WoW.
Yeah, we got the pig from WoW. We ended up
Yeah, and then the model was so small we had to blow it up, so we had this massive strength 1 boar.
Strength 1 boar that's the size of like a husky or something.
Exactly. Moving on to like the second drive, because it didn't end with the second drive didn't end until the second half. I was actually able to do essentially the same thing Eiley did to me, get a couple of, not KOs, but a couple of stuns, and just work my way down the pitch to score. I didn't really want to stall. I didn't really have a time to stall, so as soon as I had the chance, I just ran myself in.
Yeah.
I think I ended up using my apothecary on the second drive early because you either injured one of my Yetis. Yeah, you injured one of my Yetis, and I brought them back in so I could have them for the second half.
Yeah, and I remember this because we started the drive pitch even, and I think after your opening turn, I was down 2 players or something like that. Like 2 removals out the gate. It was like, oh no, and the pig predictably was turned into roast.
Oh yeah, the pig. I think Eiley and I both had the assumption that you use the pig defensively, so that when you get knocked down, you have a chance of getting back up and punching again. However, I'm still not convinced that power is as important as just having another Norse positional of any kind, really, on the pitch.
We'll get into that, but my basic philosophy for that game was I should really be using this pig to be fouling constantly, but I want to use it the way the way that they talk about it being intended to be used. Like, let's see how it actually functions in that role. And I knew it was not going to be very good, but it's like, let's use it as if it's like probably intended, and then we'll go over how to actually use it, or if you should use it at all.
You at least have to try it as advertised, right? I mean, but they even put it on like the commercial for it, obviously. Like, look at this silly boar. It wears a helmet and has beard. Isn't that just the Norse way? Ha ha.
Alcohol abuse.
God, that hits a little too close to home, Eiley. But
that was actually something that I knew people were talking about. They were like, why the hell is this just the alcohol abuse team? So, people, get help if you need it.
I'm just going to put, like, the alcoholic help or tip line, but it's going to be kind of useless since, like, half of the people that watch this are European. But going on to the second half, it was more of the same, except for since I was just receiving the ball, I had just a small player advantage. I don't remember it being that big. It was like 2 players, I think. Near the end of the drive, it was 3. It could have gone either way, but on like the last or the second and the last turn, I got a touchdown after a dodge and two going for it with I want to say with my catcher. Which I mean, I didn't have any rerolls at that time. I think we both blew through our rerolls quite quickly,
Yeah,
which
no.
I don't think is really a Norse thing to do. But we were playing pretty like high risk, high reward, which is kind of the Norse way.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, it could have easily been a draw. I think statistic wise, it was going to be a draw, but I just had the better roll because in Blood Bowl, all you gotta do is roll well. Simple as.
Yeah,
But
no, there was. I mean, I think you needed like what was it? It was like just like dodge, double rush, like
yeah,
okay, like that's not the hardest thing in the world. In terms of reroll usage, I remember in the first half you blew through yours really quickly, and I had both of mine on turn 7.
yeah, you definitely managed it a lot better, which probably yielded to why you were able to remove my team more efficiently.
Maybe I don't know.
Yeah. So that's essentially how it went. Norse won by a thin margin. After the match, I have to say that the new Norse team is a lot more stood up a lot better than I thought it would.
Yeah, thick skull is huge.
Yeah, Thick Skull is fantastic for this team. I feel like they took the book from the undead teams and saw, hey, we should do this. Makes a whole lot more sense because 8th isn't too hard to roll, and people like having their boys back in.
Yeah,
I do agree that the pig is a definite fouler. I think a 20k fouler is a fantastic idea.
yeah. So
Um,
why don't we just get into the nitty gritty of the team then?
Yeah. So, your team, what do you want to change, and what do you expect to see from like Norse players?
So my thing was that I wanted to, I didn't quite think that I could fit the Yeti in, and I'm not going to lie. The entire reason for that was that I was making this team after like, what, that was Monday? Did I have that day off?
No, that was Friday.
Friday.
That was last Friday.
Last Friday? Okay. I'm coming off of a like 9-hour close at work. Like I just worked for like 9 hours or something. Closing at a fast food joint, and then I come home, make the team, play Blood Bowl. Yeah, I was not thinking very well. So the thing that I would definitely change is that I think Norse are still a very swingy team. You know what I mean by that is, you're gonna live by the sword, die by the sword. You're either gonna Norse your opponent, your armor's not gonna break, you're gonna roll well, you're gonna start generating casualties, you're gonna be able to bully your opponent because you have block on your linemen, or you're not, and you're gonna play the AV 8-up game, and you're going to lose players very quickly, and it's all gonna go downhill from there. And I think Norse still play that way. So like the big thing that I would have changed was that I would have just slammed a Yeti in. Like let's put a Yeti in somehow. I think the best way to do that is to probably drop the Berserkers. I think that if I was going into a league, I mean we'll get into why this is, but if we're going into a league, I think I'm just not taking the Berserkers, and I'm just gonna go like Yeti, 2 Ulfwereners, 2 Valkyries. Enough linemen and rerolls to get by. Go, like let's just do that.
Now, why the Valkyries, not the Berserkers, if you're going to go punch heavy?
So, it's not that I'm going punch heavy. It's that I think it's just the better team. So like, Berserkers, Frenzy is nice. But, I mean, to be quite blunt with you, you do only have 2 rerolls still in that kind of roster, right? So, having less Frenzy is actually okay, when it comes down to it, the Valkyries are so good that I think you want to invest a lot into them. But it's also true that you need to have, enough other players to get by, so, like, the most efficient thing to do is to trim the 2 berserkers, because 2 berserkers are 180k. Also, you can't bring 2 if you take like full positionals outside of the beer pours. I mean, you can actually if you do take the 2 beer pours. You probably can get by. I haven't done that math yet. But B, alignment is 50k and a berserker is 90k. You know, if you trim the berserker, you can almost get two more alignment or something.
Yeah, which is still someone who can move moderately fast and block.
Move, block, you know, do all the things you wanted your berserker to do, except they're probably not, you know, they're not going to be able to, you know, go all the way like a berserker can. But it's like, okay, like, you know, you can't do crazy frenzy plays and stuff. Okay, fine, but you already have a blitzer. You know, an Old Foreigner is a strength 4 frenzy piece. That is an excellent blitz target. Like, that's an excellent candidate to do your blitzes with. The Yeti is going to be in the mix a lot of the time. So, I mean, when it comes down to it, I guess you could blitz with the Yeti. The only thing is that I'm pretty sure the Yeti has Unchanneled Fury, doesn't he? So he does need to have somebody babysit him.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, he has Unchanneled Fury. So he does need somebody to babysit him. Okay. You know, like, having extra linemen for that, pretty good. But no, I think that I built a roster that if you are only going to use the team box and you're not going to get the Yeti, which, spoiler alert, if you want to pick up this team, you absolutely should pick up the Yeti, which controversial take around Josh. 'Cause Josh hates the Yeti. For God knows what reason, but he does.
Well, let me just extrapolate on that. Yes, I do have a bias against the Yeti. But in this outing, claws doesn't really matter, especially against another Norse team, because it's just, I turn your armor into 8. Your armor's already 8. In fact, with the new team, the Berserker's armor is 8. So I didn't really see the point of having him in there. Yeah, you have a strength advantage, but for me, I like having better odds with my blocking and better consistency, and the Yeti just doesn't do that for me. So I'd rather take an Old Foreigner that I know will move and I know I can use my reroll on than a Yeti that I can't.
Yes.
Maybe you know, maybe it'll change as I start seeing Norse rosters develop. But even like with this new team, I'm just like, there's a lot of really cool positionals that they added in here. I really want to try them instead of the Yeti. Granted, the star player model that they have is hilarious.
So
like it's straight out of like a Saturday cartoon Yeti. It's fantastic. The scarf and all.
It reminds me of like the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer like puppet like special, you know, where if you combine the Abominable Snowman from that with
exactly
the like explorer guy, you get this, and it's like, this is honestly, the other thing it reminds me of is like, it looks like it's something that'd be like straight out of a Pixar film or something.
Exactly.
And it's so good. I love it.
Yeah. So I would say, yeah, for adding the Yeti, to me, it is a answer of who are you playing against? What does your league look like? If you're playing someone who favors high armor, then of course you bring it. But to me, consistency and probability are my loves and my joys, and the Yeti does not bring that to me.
Yeah, you're not. I generally find you're not a fan of most big guys, I don't think.
The only big guys I'm a fan of are tomb guards, or excuse me, mummies, tome mummies, whatever the Tomb King mummies are.
Oh, they're tomb guardians, yeah.
Tomb guardians, yeah, and the mummies and the flesh
the two
golems.
Without nega traits. Well, okay, the two without consistency nega traits. They have decay.
The two without negative traits and 5 strength are better.
Yeah, exactly.
Because while I like flesh golems, I still don't like. I'm still not a
guys.
huge fan of 4 strength. Yeah, to me they're a solid positional and they're a great team. They're a great addition to a necromantic team, obviously, but they don't have the same kind of consistency, or they don't feel the same role as the mummy does.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm actually gonna push back against like the notion that the Yeti isn't very consistent because it is a big guy, right? So you do still need to roll a 2-up, otherwise he smacks somebody on your team, or otherwise doesn't do anything. And if you need to reposition him, it's a 4+. But even against low AV teams, he is still a strength 5 frenzy piece. With assistance, he is blocking other big guys and doing it with claws. If your opponent is putting somebody who's strength 3 in front of him, who cares? The only thing that's really concerning about the Yeti, in my opinion, is the armor. Because you will have, somebody mighty blow blitz this guy. If he gets frenzy trapped, or like, your team, you have to like reposition your team, and the Yeti kind of gets left behind in a mosh pit or something, which will happen sometimes. He will get, like, all it takes is a mighty blow blitzer, and suddenly this guy is the same AV as your lineman, which is scary. Like, the biggest issue with the Yeti is that he is a low armor big guy, but Frenzy Claws is, scary against basically every team that has access to a big guy. So, in that regard, I actually think the Yeti can be fairly consistent. Also, the disturbing presence when it comes up is just hysterical. The number of random passes or like catches that I have prevented because the Yeti just happened to be standing around and people forgot about it is utterly hilarious. But no, I think that if you're going to play Norse, you can't, for lack of a better term, you can't half-ass it. This is a team that wants to dice your opponent, wants to be kind of swingy. It's not nearly as dicey as Khorne, right? But you have to be swingy, and I think playing a little reserved with Norse is a good way to go nowhere fast. And that's how I have felt whenever I've played Norse without a Yeti. Is it feels you just can't go anywhere.
I would say that like Norse play the way that I wish Khorne did, in a sense.
Yeah.
Frenzy is cool and all, but the decision to block is made a lot simpler when you have block.
You're just glad I didn't have to. You're just happy that this game went a little bit shorter because I didn't have to spend 5 minutes figuring out what the heck things were going to look like.
I'm glad we were able to get a full game in this time, but dear God, that Khorne. Like, I already had to deal with a 5-hour game yesterday.
Yeah.
I would hate to have repeated that.
Yeah, no, for sure. But yeah, I don't. I mean, like, it's actually funny that you mentioned that because like that's like really the big thing that's coming out of this is that Norse is still Norse, right? Like,
Norse is Norse.
It still plays, which was what I was concerned about when like we saw the models. I was like, okay, are they going to change it? Because I know that there was some conversation about brawler instead of block, and I'm like, okay, now you're changing how the team does the thing, but the way that the team does the thing was so like iconic to them. It's like, okay, like let's see if they really changed the identity of the team, and they didn't. I mean, in fact, what they did was I think they actually just straight up gave Norse a buff all around. I mean, they condensed. You actually get use out of pass now. Having passing access to your team, because they condensed it down with the runner positional that you were taking anyway. You were taking it without the thrower, because frankly, the Norse thrower was kind of crap.
That's what it comes out. It's a more developed Norse team. They saw the Norse team. They saw that it had one trick, and it did that one trick well, but they knew that, that's not... That'll definitely appeal to the older fans, and maybe even some of the newer fans who aren't privy to the teams of legend. But I like what they did with this. They're like, we are going to develop this team into something that is really good, still really good at punching, still really good at getting their ass knocked on the ground.
Yes.
But also has tools available to develop your playstyle. And another thing I realized with this kit is that, unlike the Khorne kit, there isn't a extra team pack for the Norse in Forge World. Not saying that anyone should get that pack from Forge World if it did exist, but I would say that they are actually expecting this to be a team that you can take out of the box and still play pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeti or no Yeti.
I mean, you get everything in that box. I mean,
Yeah.
you have full non-big guy positions.
Yeah. Well, that's big because if you say you get every positional, people are going to assume you get the Yeti, which you don't.
Well, yeah, no, you don't get the Yeti, but I mean, like, quite bluntly, you don't even need to go to Forge. I mean, you don't even need to go to Forge World for the Blood Bowl Yeti because you can, like, there's still the Yetis for Age of Sigmar. I mean, obviously they're more expensive, but you could just say, like, I don't want to deal with Forge World. I don't want to have to go online and order something else. Fine, I'll just buy this box from the Ogre army off the shelf, and there you go.
Yeah. But then again, that's kind of getting off topic. I kind of shoehorned us into another model discussion.
Well, we talked extensively about the Yeti, who's basically unchanged in this edition. Instead of talking about the two new positionals at all. Yeah. So why don't we?
Well, I mean, we kind of touched on it. The Piggy, I still think, is a better Fowler than it is for his pick-me-up.
Yeah, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the pig, shall we?
Yeah. He was about as punchable as I thought he was. As soon as Eiley had an opening, I turned him into bacon.
Bacon.
Turned him into beer batter bacon. Oh, Jesus Christ, beer batter bacon.
Oh, God, that sounds so
good. Try saying that 3 times fast. But to me, the pig is great for the wrong reasons, but I could see that is going to be why it makes it great, because people are going to have a 20k Fowler. They have a Norse version of the Snotling that's just a little bit more expensive, just a tiny bit, just a little bit. And I feel like it's going to stay a Fowler that has the ability to put people back up, because if you're fouling people, usually that means you're in range of people who are also down, which may still help you. But I still don't think you use the pig to rely on pick me up.
Yeah.
In any such scenario.
So, quite bluntly, the pig is just bad. Like, it's just bad. Like it is probably one of the single most, the single best fouling positional in my opinion. Even though it only has one secondary. Like, it has no primary. And it has agility secondary. So if for some godforsaken reason, you get to 12 SPP, you can pick up what's it called? Sneaky Get. That took me much longer than it really should have. Or, I mean, I guess if you wanted less, you could go for the random agility skill and just hope to God you don't get catch or diving catch, because otherwise you are sad.
Is this the only positional that specifically does not have primary skill access into anything?
It is.
Which is still kind of crazy to me. Because what is the piggy's not going to get a lot of SPP in the first place, and he's not going to get SPP for fouling.
Only if it randoms into MVP, which is probably why it doesn't have any skill accesses. But let's break the pig down. Okay, so first of all, no. I'm gonna finish with the positives of the pig. Let's talk about using it here. So the pig has there's two things going for the pig. The first one is that it is a 20k Fowler that does something when it's not fouling.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I'm not gonna go out on a limb and say it's good. I am going to say that it might be one of the best dedicated fouling pieces in the game. But it's on a team that does that. It's on a team that's going to foul. It's Norse. If you get the pitch advantage, you start fouling left and right.
Exactly.
But the problem is that it's also on Norse. So, on a team where you already have low armor, and you're usually playing down players, and quite frankly in League play, usually bringing journeymen along, because you will lose play. Players are going to die, because it's Norse. You have this positional that can't block. It's strength 1, so your opponent 3 dies it basically no matter what. It can't pick up the ball. It can't run. Does no hands prevent it from attempting an interception? I think it does.
I'm pretty sure it does, but I don't have the list out in front of me. I'm just gonna pull it up on the video so people can just show how much of an idiot we are.
Yes, exactly.
But
So
let's go on to the Valkyries
well, hang on.
next. Okay.
Hang on. No. I think there's a lot to talk about the pick.
Okay.
Unironically, there's actually a lot to talk about with this terrible piece. So it does. So what happens is that you can say that you can bring this piece, okay, and it's like, oh yeah, my players get back up. It's like, okay, but you have low armor, so your armor's gonna break more frequently. Then you're rolling. You do have thick skull, so you might get stunned. So you might stay on the pitch, but this guy doesn't work on stunts. He only works if your armor holds up. So if you're Norsing your opponent, it's great. Like it might stand somebody up every now and then. It's actually doing something. But if it's like what is statistically much more likely to happen is that your armor gets broken, you get stunned, sent off the pitch, whatever, and the pig just stands there and doesn't do anything. So the pig, if you're bringing this 20k piece along, is you are fouling with it. Because it is a 20k fouler that will occasionally pick somebody up. And that's pretty cool. The other thing about
piece like it.
Yeah, the other thing about the pig, and this came up in some conversations talking about like Norse team building, was it lets you get to 11 players in league play and go super min-maxy on your team. Bring one along as your 11th player, so that you could afford, more positionals, or like a reroll, or an apothecary, or like, get something else. Let it die, get injured, fire it after the first game, kill it, whatever. You can then start the next game with a journeyman, which is just the Norse experience. So the beer boar, if you love the model and you want to bring it along, you can use it to like, kind of go big or go home on like team creation, which is pretty cool too. Don't get me wrong, I love that. And I'm sure somebody's going to do it, and it's going to be awesome. But as a positional, I think I would just rather have a strength 3 loner. And this makes me really sad, because the design space for this positional is awesome. I love this design space. This is like one of the single coolest design spaces in Blood Bowl, I think. I'm really glad they did this. It's just not good.
All right. Well, a couple of big signals.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It's going to be the beer boar experiment, essentially, with people playing it. I mean, it is.
Yeah,
it
is.
Like
I just love that
noted,
title. The beer boar experiment. I love that title.
the good thing is that it's not essential to the team.
Yeah.
So and it's cheap. So that to me, it is an experiment worth trying still.
Yeah, I think it's worth trying too. But it's worth trying it in ways that it was not intended to be used.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the Valkyries. We didn't really get a good representation of all the things Valkyries can do, obviously, because the only thing that she could use Dauntless for was the Yetis.
Or the old foreigners,
not the Yetis, the old foreigners. Silly me. And they didn't, since they were usually our ball carriers, they usually weren't in the target range of the old foreigners. So we couldn't really see them in action. But since you are the only one who really got to experience them, Miley, what do you think about the Valkyries, compared to the other positionals?
Experience-wise, I think the only thing that it really opened up for me was the idea that I could throw the ball and have it go somewhere. Which, okay, that is useful. That is very useful utility. I'm most excited for these in League play because Norse now has a project piece. And 2 of these could be really scary. Once you get block on them, you could do anything that you want with them now. hilariously, the first skill that you're going to want to get is the skill that all of your other positionals have. But if you get block, it's like, okay, cool. What do you want to do now? Sure hands, excellent retriever. You know, dodge. Now you have a dodge, could be a good sacker. Leap, great sacker. You know, although leaping with a 3+ is really leaping without very long legs, kind of scary sometimes. But maybe I'm just spoiled with Kislev, or you know, spoiled because she's AG3 and not AG4, or AG3+, not AG2+. But she's a candidate for so many skills. This could be the best player on the team. I mean, it probably is. Like, it just is, right? But the development potential for this player is sky high. And I am super excited to see what people do with them in leagues, because 2 of them gives you ball movement, it gives you a ball threat, because now your opponent needs to play tight defense, like, you know, tight formations, or, you know, cage up, whatever. Or you're going to get that ball out of their hands. You know, one way or another, you're going to do it, because you have strip ball. This player is scary, and I am super excited for them.
Yeah, its kit is incredibly impressive. I feel like to me, it reminds me of the Blitzers from Bretonia from the actual PC game. It's just a player with a whole lot of potential, provided you can keep them alive.
Yes. That is the one thing that is very scary, is that no protection skills, 8+ AV. Yeah, you're getting block first skill, and then you're going to consider anything else, but you have to get block first.
All right. That would pretty much conclude our Norse v Norse competition. Did you want to add anything before I get into close?
There's a couple things we haven't talked about yet. The big one is thick skull in the lineman. Great. Love that.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
Special rules. I actually really love this, is that you can make them either favored of, and your choices are only Chaos Undivided or Khorne, which is really weird to me. I don't know why it has to be, like, I get what they're trying to do, but it's like, they're Norskins. They worship all of them. Why is it just Khorne? Okay.
Because they know that's the only team that has good access to star players, or any.
Or you can, they included the nod that I really like, which is the nod to non-chaos worshipping Norskins, which is a thing. I'm pretty sure they actually have their own army book in the Warhammer Armies project, so like they come up a fair bit. You can make them Old World Classic instead, so you don't have to be playing Chaos Norse. You can play non-Chaos Norse, which I think is a really good nod to the lore. Otherwise, the team is still definitely slower. Drunkard. Oh god, Drunkard.
That just means you have to be more careful. It's the trade-off that they wanted, so they could fit Thick Skull in my opinion.
Definitely. So, like, I guess like pivoting into the closing thoughts. The closing thoughts of the team are: the team got buffed. Team is very, very good. The Valkyries, amazing. Beer Boars, somebody's gonna do something fun with team creation with them. Mostly just firing them after the first game, but still, the team is still Norse. You know, the team plays like Norse. But more importantly, and this is something that we haven't touched on, as an aggregate, with everything that the team has, like with all the changes, and it's specifically with Drunkard due to the Norse linemen, the team is still punishing of poor positioning, but now it's more punishing. Because now you've lost your GFI access. Because let's be blunt, nobody wants to try to do 3-up rushes. Or if you happen to be in the Norse home climate of a blizzard, apparently it's a 4-up now. They really should have made it so that they get a +1 to rushing in a blizzard. The only environment they're good at rushing in is when there's snow. That would have been kind of funny. But the team is maybe not harder to play now, but the positioning game is much less forgiving now.
Definitely. And I couldn't agree more.
Which is interesting. But no, I'm excited for the new Norse. Am I going to play them? Probably not, actually. I love Valkyries. I love project pieces. Quite bluntly, if I want to play, dicey, live by the sword, die by the sword, I think I'm going to stick to Khorne. I just enjoy Khorne more nowadays. I used to love Norse. Norse was like my second favorite team in Blood Bowl 2. But I think Khorne's kind of taken that spot as like my dicey kind of, let's just do it team. But I'm glad that Norse is here, an official plastic for people who want that without going to Khorne. So now we kind of have different flavors of it, which is really cool.
All right. And with that, we're going to head to a close for this episode. Some things going on with the Discord. We're halfway through one of our leagues right now, but we should be finishing up sometime by either the end of this month or next. So if you would like to join us, we have our Discord link in the description below, as well as some links to our latest and greatest artists, the royalty-free music, and artists for our recent pieces. I haven't actually asked them if they wanted to be mentioned verbally, so I'll just keep their link down there for those who are interested, because they are taking comms at the moment, and they do fantastic work. Thanks again to the Blood Bowl modding community, which is the only reason we're able to do these games on time in a fashionly manner. Hopefully, Eiley doesn't keep crashing, but I think, like I said, it's a problem with the Unity engine, not so much with the mod itself. And we shall see you all later. If you've made it to the end of this video, congratulations, you've won. Of what, I'm not sure, but you aren't getting punched by Eiley, so I guess that's a treat.
Unless you catcall a Valkyrie, and then I'm gonna beat your ass.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't be that guy. But yeah, this was a ramble.
Yeah. We will see you all later. This has been BBSPN, a Blood Bowl podcast, and we'll catch you on the pitch.
See ya.